Hey everyone, welcome back to Talking Shop with ShopSabre. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about plasma versus fiber laser. We're going to go through all the ins and outs about it, and we got some cool things here on the desk we're going to talk about today, kind of show off some samples we got here. But first, I'm your host, Brandon Bombardo. I am here with Nick Peters, as always.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm not so certain you should have left weapons on the table for me, but
I actually thought about that.
Okay.
I was like, well, if today's my day, it's my day.
problem is everything's being recorded, so I can't get away with anything.
That's why I like the camera.
So it's not really your word against my word.
Blunt force trauma. Yeah, I'm excited about this episode. I know in this episode we're going to talk a little bit about this up-and-coming technology called fiber laser. You know, a lot of you may or may not be familiar with it. I don't know. I really like that it's a newer technology, yet an established technology. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So
First I heard of it was back when Austin Powers talked about it.
no,
In those
that was
movies.
lasers.
It's the same thing, right?
Yeah, but I still want our machines to do that when we start it up. I just want to start the machine up and I want it to go pew pew.
Probably make that happen.
That'd be cool, wouldn't it?
That would be sweet.
But yeah, no, today I just want to talk about it because I think there's a lot of people out there who simply ask the wrong questions when it comes to fiber laser versus plasma. And I just think it's time that we talk a little bit about those questions and about these machines in general and really get into like, is it about tolerances? Is it about thickness? What is it? Where do I save time? Where do I not save time? What's the real advantages to buying a fiber laser versus buying a plasma machine?
So you're going to set the record straight.
We're going to set the record straight today. That's what we're going to do.
Awesome.
Good idea. But first, we got to talk about some, daily events.
We should be doing this from the roof today. It's really nice.
We should be doing it from the roof. We were supposed to do it from the rooftop today. I was on the rooftop last week
You were.
because the heater started that fire. Well, it didn't start a fire, but
It sounds better when you tell the story that way.
yeah, but it definitely burnt out a blower motor.
It's not good.
Wah, 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 wah. That was the sound of the guy in Plinko, or the yodeler.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Price is Right.
Yeah, Price is Right. When yodeler gets up
yeah.
the top, and he falls up. Wah, 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 wah.
That's such a great show.
It is a great show. It's really underrated. Really
Drew
underrated.
Carey kind of sucks, but whatever.
Don't care.
Bob Barker's the GOAT.
It's because we know Bob Barker, but our kids are going to grow up and be like, Drew Carey all the way.
No, but see, my kid knows Bob Barker because he kicked Happy Gilmore's ass in the movie.
That's true. Bob Barker did kick Happy Gilmore's butt. But yeah, no, it's 40 degrees outside today. Right? 40?
Yeah, well, it was like 55 yesterday or something.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was hot as heck out. Almost said something else.
It was 40 degrees?
It was like 41 degrees when I drove to work yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So,
Let's not get used to it, though.
well, I was thinking,
we know better.
Why?
We know better.
Don't do that to me.
It's only the end of February. We have all of March to get through. We're going to get one more snowfall.
I don't like you. I was thinking out loud here. 40 degrees in February and March is a lot different than 40 degrees in August.
Have we had 40 in August?
I don't know. I feel like
we have 40 in August, I'm moving.
I'm pretty sure we have, because I'm pretty sure at night it gets cooler.
I'm going to have to check on that. If we have 40 this coming August, I'm moving, just so you know.
Okay.
So you have 7 months warning that I'm leaving.
Come on, 40.
Hurtful.
No, but I was just thinking about that, though. Like, okay, call it September. I don't care what month you want to pick it up.
I hear
but,
you.
like, I'm talking about, like, after the warm summer. 40 degrees sucks.
You immediately put on sweatpants and a
Oh, dude, I put my fireplace on. I'm cold.
for sure.
Yesterday, I was outside, like, I really thought it was like 40. I didn't realize it was 50. That might be why it was so warm yesterday. But, like, I was, like, strutting around outside, throwing snowballs at my kid because there was a small pile of snow left in my yard.
And it's perfect
It's
snowball.
perfect snowball of snow.
I did the same thing on Sunday when we were outside playing football.
Yeah,
I threw it over his head and then I made a snowball quick, and as soon as he turned around, right in the chest.
got him.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son and his buddy were over on Sunday, and they decided to have a snowball fight with me that I didn't know I was in. So I walked out and
always
got
fun.
just blasted by snowballs.
It's just nice to be able to go outside.
Right, it is.
Like, you can go outside for like 3 minutes when it's negative 740.
I want to know, like, those who are listening who are in the South, like, this time of year, does it get you excited at all? Like, it gets us excited. Like, this time of year, you're like, oh my God, we're finally warming up. Snow is going away. What do the people in the South do? I've never lived in the South.
Great question.
So,
I've been to Florida in January when it's 65 degrees out and nobody's at the beach and you're the only one there.
right.
So they hate 65. What are they? I mean,
But
I
I'm
don't
just wondering, like, does this time of year do anything for them to, like, oh man, we're finally getting to being able to not stand outside?
know.
Or will they
hopefully we get some answers on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just wondering. So
It's interesting.
My one comment is about sports this week is the USA lost. Canada prevailed in the U.S. versus Canada Four Nations tournament.
It was unfortunate, but man, that tournament was sweet.
It was so awesome.
So good.
Like, I don't even care that we lost as much as it was just an awesome tournament.
There needs to be like that every year.
Dude.
Obviously, it won't be with like the Olympics and stuff happening during like the All-Star break.
Next year, I don't suspect there'll be any because of the Olympics.
Probably not. But like other sports could learn so much from that.
Oh, it was so awesome.
Like, how do you get, I mean, obviously there's a lot of other sports that, I don't know, are more injury prone when things like that get taken seriously. So they want to be like that.
Are there though?
Well, I mean, it seems like it, maybe not.
That's what I'm just wondering. Like, I mean, they were punching each other in the face.
That was sweet.
Like, they were straight defending their country. That's kind of cool though. I just thought it was cool to see like the all four nations like was competitive games. There was no blowouts. Like good competitive hockey. Man, even the championship game came down to like the end. It was awesome.
But how do you let McDavid wide open in the middle?
Nobody leaves best player in the game wide open in the slot. I'm still angry about that.
Yeah, it made no sense, but
it made me realize it is what it is.
Still good hockey.
Yeah, so that's what I had for my current events. What do you got?
I went to rewind that a little bit.
Sure.
I went to read to my kids' class and teach them math yesterday.
They run out of people?
Yeah, bottom of the barrel. But so I got an invite. I was like, yeah, that'll be fine. It's cool.
Yeah, that seems like a good day.
So I get there and I was, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes before they got back to class for reading time, and I was nervous as hell. I'm like, I'm gonna go sit in front of a bunch of 7-year-olds and 8-year-olds and reading some children's book that has like 7 words on a page, and I'm nervous as hell to do it. Why? It was weird. Like I didn't expect it, and all of a sudden I was just like, oh my God, I got to do this.
My wife brought me in a few years. My wife's teacher, for anybody who doesn't know. My wife's teacher, and so she's brought me in several times as like her guest reader, right? And it is like these are books that I can read with like no effort.
Yeah, and I stumble over 3-letter words. I'm like, what is happening?
You just get so nervous. So I do the same thing. I walked in and got really nervous, and so I made the joke to my wife because she's like, will you come be the reader at class? I said, what are you trying to do? You trying to show kids what happens if you don't go to college? What? Like, is this a joke?
And then, like, not that I don't appreciate what teachers do every single day.
Right.
But that 15 minutes in the class, I was like, dude, it's a Monday after kids were like running around all weekend, and they're still full of 150% energy all over the place. Oh, yeah. How do you do this every day? I would go nuts.
I have a lot of respect for teachers for that reason, because I live with one and I hear the stories, and it's just like, wowzer.
And to like just keep their patience and calmly tell them to like relax and sit down and be quiet. Like,
I'm gonna tell you right now,
I'd have a ruler out, snapping on my hand. Like, listen, boys,
I'd be flipping desks. Yeah. Somebody be somebody in the hallway. I'll tell you that much right now.
Probably lock them in a locker.
They're bigger than me. But
it was something.
It's crazy.
I started working out.
Did you?
Started doing crunches every day, twice a day actually.
This sounds like a dad joke. Go ahead.
Captain in the morning, Nestle in the afternoon.
Knew it. I knew that theirs wasn't real. It felt not natural. Oh, that's funny.
It's funny though. Crunches twice a day. Sounded good at first.
Do you know why?
Oh, good.
Do you know why T-Rexes can't clap?
Nope.
Because they're extinct.
Oh, that's
surprised you didn't know that.
No, it's good.
All right. Well, that's all I got.
All right.
I brought that one today for you.
Good job.
Thanks. Go ahead.
At least you didn't have to explain it.
I didn't have to explain it. No, that was easy.
Are we going to move on now?
Yeah, we're going to move on.
Customer questions and comments.
Fine. Okay.
I know the answer to the first one.
Okay, I'll ask you it then.
Yeah.
Why do you require so much filtration on compressed air for a CNC?
Well, I should say I know the easy answer and the quick answer, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you don't want water, dust, and dirt and grime getting into your spindle.
Yes, that's true on a router.
The easy answer.
But it says on a CNC.
Well.
So what about on a plasma? Why do I need it?
Well, what do they need for a plasma?
Why do I need it on a laser?
Great question. I bet you got the answer.
Yeah, the answer on it's all about filtration. It's all about cleanliness of the air supplied to the tool or the device, right? And as you alluded to on routers, you don't want moisture getting into your router, because moisture eventually turns into rust, and rust eventually causes problems, right? It causes things not to operate the way they are. I would say the number one failure for spindles is moisture that's entered into the system. I would say that's the number one reason we see failures in spindles, and it's usually due to high moisture content in the air lines. And sometimes it's just simply the air compressor is not even picking up the moisture as much as it is the air lines between the compressor and.
Does that simply come from like humid weather conditions, or are there other things that introduce moisture to the air?
I think naturally humidity is the number one contributor. But, again, anytime you have air moving through an enclosed area, right,
Sure.
there's a chance you're going to pick up something there. So it's definitely something that you want to filter out for the spindle. But when you get into plasma and now fiber laser, the optics on a fiber laser are extremely sensitive. And so the optics actually, the way a light comes through a lens, like it's a high intense light. And the problem is if there's any piece of debris at all, any moisture at all on that lens, it's going to crack it. It's going to wreck it. It's going to burn the lens. So you end up replacing stuff really quick. So people are going to find, that if you don't have good filtration, like you're not going to have good results. Like you're going to end up having performance issues. So yeah, that's a big reason on the fiber laser. And then on plasma, it's no different. If you get contaminants into the electrodes, well, it's going to have a hard time creating a good, clean burn, right?
Sure.
And so it's going to cause performance issues there as well for you. So like keeping moisture out of the flame is important, right? You get a better cut when you have clean air and you don't have debris going through it. So it's just, all around. Heavy filtration is always recommended. Like we recommend air dryers. We recommend an inline filter system right before the machine, just as a secondary, solution. But you should always want as clean of air as you can to get to any of these type of technologies. Whether it's a mill, a router, a plasma, a tube cutter, laser, it doesn't matter. Like they all really do perform better with clean air. So yeah, it's a cheap insurance to making sure you get good performance.
Insurance is definitely worth the money.
Right.
Question number 2. Why should I not use milling tools with my CNC router? Because it's not a mill?
Yeah. I guess that's the easy answer. It's not a mill. No, you can use milling tools with your router in some regards, but the reason why you normally don't use milling tools with routers is a lot of times it's because it's two very different solutions, and the type of bits used on a mill generally are for steel, right? They're for metals, and you're not typically using a router with steel. Now, when it comes to aluminum, yeah, you can use the same tooling there in some regard. But again, a mill, a lot of times has a lot higher horsepower rating. And therefore, the tools that you're turning on a mill are a lot of times really high horsepower rated tooling. In other words, like they're large diameter. They need a lot more horsepower behind them. Torque really is the big thing there because you're going to run the tools at lower RPM. And a lot of times a mill doesn't spin the bit as fast. So the tools are designed at a lower RPM range, and therefore a router just really isn't designed to run at those RPM ranges. So historically, you're going to see that the tools just aren't rated for the RPM range that you need to run on a router.
All right. Well said.
Yeah. And I brought one today. Customer, I found a comment online that was pretty cool. He said, he was regarding our options last week. We asked about what options would you and would you not buy? And he said, I'd never buy a machine without an ATC or a vacuum. He goes, to me, dust collection doesn't count. They should come collection ready. And I agree with that. Our machines are all dust collection ready. The collector size itself will depend on what you're doing. So I still think there's an option there for you to select. But I agree with that. I think tool changer and vacuum to me is two options that if I was going to add a machine to my own home, like I would have it on there just because they tend to pay for themselves in the long run. When you think about the cost difference between a machine with a tool changer, without a tool changer, it's not a significant price difference.
Right.
And my time is worth it alone.
It still can be sort of situation specific, right? Though,
right.
A manual change does fit some people's
budget
needs, right?
Yeah, it's budget driven. Sometimes if you only have a shoebox full of so much money, you can't afford certain options, no matter how affordable they are, right? So, yeah, I think that's something that you just have to take into consideration: your application, your budget, anything that you're doing specifically. I think that just has to fit your needs, your expectations, But for me, I agree. I like the idea of vacuum. I like the idea of tool changer. I like vacuum because less screwing around with hold down. I just don't like parts flying all over the place on me, and I'm too lazy to screw everything down. And I like auto tool changers because even if I don't use them for their intention of like, hey, multiple tools per project, I just like having all my tools set up and I don't have to like go back and change tools up.
Sure.
So
makes sense.
Yeah.
What do you mean by dust collection doesn't count? Is that just saying like that should be something you have no matter what?
Yeah, I think I think what he's saying is like choosing what option would you not pick, right? And I know some people comments were dust collection, and he's just saying that doesn't count. He's saying everybody needs dust collection is what he's saying. Now, Obviously, depending on what you're doing, dust collection may or may not count, right? There's certain things you just don't use dust
Maybe you
collection
just like sweeping the floor all the time.
Maybe you just really like it. Yeah.
Some people probably do.
I do not like sweeping the floor.
Did I tell you I hooked up my new God, I cannot. Robot vacuum cleaner the other day that I had sitting in a box for 2 years.
You didn't tell me that, no. But you told me about the 2 years it's sitting in the box.
Yeah. I think Drew likes it more than I do.
Dude, it's so cool.
Every day when we get home, he goes and pushes the button.
You know, you can program it so just you don't have to hit the push button.
But he'd be pissed if it randomly wasn't home. The other day, he let it go without shutting my office door and almost got into the Legos that were on the floor. I can't imagine what that would have done. Probably not as bad as running into some...
Probably would have jammed it.
Dog feces, but it would have probably made a mess.
I'm going to bet you're right on that. Going to bet you're right.
Moving on.
Yeah, let's move on. Audience question for this week is, what in today's world have you found easier and what have you found more difficult? So if you think about today's world compared to, and I guess what's yesterday's world, right? Like, I'm just talking about the past. Like, compared to the past, what do you think in today is easier and what have you found more difficult? And go.
I think the more difficult one is kind of easy. I don't know, having like good conversations with people about certain topics. Not to like
I agree.
make it anything specific, but
yeah,
like,
I agree with that.
I feel like technology and email and computers and phones is really like taken away from a lot of human interaction that I had going back to high school, thinking back to high school.
Yep.
Like I graduated high school with a pager and just barely got a cell. Like that was like you had to still use a landline to page somebody, and then you had to go run home to call somebody back. Like pager. It was super important. Like that was But we would like
it's a good point.
Leave the house at 8 a.m. and really probably wouldn't eat anything till dinner time when we knew we had to be home.
Right. I was gonna say my kids.
We were gone all day.
Have you ever tried having a conversation with kids?
No. Well, yeah, but it doesn't work.
Right. Like they just can't have a conversation. They lack that communication skill nowadays. Like it's just really uncomfortable to talk to sometimes.
We were just having this discussion last night because Stella's leaving for Wolf Ridge tomorrow for 3 days.
Oh, cool.
And she was complaining about not taking her phone. I'm like, you know what? You're going to get to know your friends really damn well with none of you guys having phones for 3 days. You're all going to have to talk. You're going to have to interact. We're just going to argue. And I'm like, well, you're 12-year-old girls. You're probably going to argue, but get over it.
Well, the good news is she's coming back without any friends.
I mean, yeah, it's fine. I mean, the house will be a little less quiet on the weekends. But it's true, though. Like, these kids don't, and I mean, I'm guilty of it, too. Like, we don't, like, sit down and talk to people face to face as much as we used to.
I agree with that statement. What do you think you found easier, though?
Falling asleep. Because I'm getting old.
Okay. So falling asleep is easier and communication is more difficult.
Honestly, I think it's easier now, like we've talked about before, to realize what people need to keep in your life.
Right. I really liked your first answer.
Being able to go to sleep. I just wanted to give you a real answer.
I'd like the first one.
I mean, Sunday night I did go to sleep at like that. Went to bed at like 7:30.
I fell asleep last night watching some TV with Elodie. She was so mad at me. Fell asleep. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It happens. Sorry. But she doesn't push you to wake you up.
Yeah, she did. She woke me up. Go to bed.
2 minutes later, you fell back asleep.
Absolutely. That's just how it works.
That's why I don't go to movies anymor.
That's true.
It's like I just paid $20 to take a nap. I can take a nap at home.
Take a nap, exactly. That I can watch on Amazon Prime in 2 weeks.
Yep.
I found it easier to source information. Like, I think about not having to go to a library and look.
So you're pro technology and not talking to people?
No, I haven't gotten there yet. But I think it's a lot easier to find information. Like if you want to learn about a CNC machine,
sure.
Like this, think about the technology with this. Like this show right now, this didn't exist 15 years ago.
You're right. So it didn't exist 2 years ago before I started. Well, it did with other.
It did.
Knuckleheads.
I'm just pointing out the fact that like you have a better superhighway to information, right?
Sure. Yep.
So that is what I find easier, finding information. What I find more difficult is finding good information because like now the internet is just full of everybody's opinion.
For sure. And that's exactly the perfect word. It's an opinion.
Yeah. And it's like, you don't have to have any factual basis to say anything now. And like people just will put it out there and like their idea is gold, right? And everybody else is like, I think that's what I don't like about the internet is that it just everything's an argument all the time. Like opinions don't count anymore, right?
No, it's just like you go find the people that agree with you or say what
I just
think
don't
you
want
want to
that.
hit.
So to me, that's what I find more difficult is finding good quality information or good quality conversations. And I'm really proud of our user group. ShopSabre has a private user group. And like we've done a very good job of building a user group that is like very respectful. Like it's not a bunch of arguing back and forth. It's not, we just don't tolerate it on there. Like,
and that's what makes it that way.
Respectful. Yeah. It's respectful conversations. Like if you want to ask a question, that's fine, but you have to be open to the answers. Right. And well, as soon as it, if things get out of hand, like we step in and just say, okay, enough's enough. Like we're not going to do this. Like there's plenty of other groups if you want to go just scream at each other. Right.
Well, and that's what prevents those kind of people from running around and like they know they're not going to get away with it. They know it's going to get shot down. So they don't even try. They don't waste their time.
Yeah, I won't tolerate it. Like, yeah, it's just I don't know. So that's what I find. So what do you guys find in this world today to be easier, and what do you find to be more difficult as you explore your business? So there it is. Moving on to today's topic, what everybody is here for right now, which is CNC Laser versus CNC Plasma. The who, what, where, why, when. How does it make sense? Why does it make sense? I think you have to think about the CNC industry in general. It offers a lot of different options today. There's a lot of different cutting options. And two of the most popular in the CNC world is CNC Plasma and now the up and coming fiber laser, right?
Yep.
And, both tools have their place. I think that's something that is lost in this conversation is that one isn't replacing the other, even though people believe it is, right? Knowing when and why you use laser versus plasma, I think it's critical to getting the right technology for the job and getting the best results for your application. Because yes, there's a fiber laser that exists for everything that a plasma exists, right? You're 100% right on that. But there's also a cost that associates with that. So that's what I want to talk about today. Because like in this episode, we're going to break down the differences specifically between the two technologies, both material thickness wise as well as finish wise, because I think there's a conversation to be had there. And then why laser, right? Why it's not always the answer. I think we have to still talk about like ShopSabre didn't discontinue its plasma line as soon as we came out with fiber laser.
Yeah.
Like I still see a reason for people to buy a plasma, and there's many applications where plasma probably is a better fit for people. And you have to really determine what is the ultimate, solution for you, because is it part quality or accuracy, or is it, cost? What are you looking at? So, I think we have to first start off by understanding plasma, perhaps.
I mean, I was just going to ask before you get to that part, is it as simple as people just think that it's a new product, it's a new type of machine, it's the latest and greatest, and that's what they have to have?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like they don't realize that there's a difference between the two and a need for the two, and the difference in quality or what you're going to get from it. Is that what people think? Shiny new penny.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. New technology. Oh, got to have it. Like you're 100% right. You should have it if it fits your application, because I think there's equally as many people who are the opposite, that they don't think they need it. I have a plasma. What do I need a laser for? Sure. And it's like, you do need to have it. Like you're struggling with things that you wouldn't have to struggle with. So like
it goes back to last week and figure out what you really need and where your money is more worth spent.
Right. And that's exactly what led us into this. And so, when you, like I said, let's understand what they are first before we kind of dive into that. But, where does plasma make sense for most people? Right? Like what is a plasma? Like, well, it's a, high velocity, I guess the best way to put it is jet, right? It's going to, put ionized gas and it, essentially melts and removes the material, right? And yes, I did read that from my note here, just so I didn't get that wrong.
It's a pretty fascinating technology, really.
Right.
I thought it was kind of crazy to watch when I first started here, and now to see like what it really does, it's really cool.
But really, like from a material standpoint, its advantages are it can cut a lot thicker, right? Like 1-2 inch material is not unheard of when you get into doing plasma cutting. And the advantage is like on thicker materials, you're going to typically find a faster cutting speed with plasma, especially when you get into high definition plasma. You start getting into like X definition by hypertherm.
Yep.
And there's some real high quality cutting that you can expect from that. From a cost perspective, like when you compare it to laser, it's a more cost effective solution, right? You can buy plasmas for thousands of dollars. You buy lasers for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yep.
So it's a more cost effective solution depending on what you're doing. Now, fortunately, like with the introduction of our fiber laser, we've made lasers under $100,000 now, right? They're more affordable, but they have limitations, right? They come with some limitations. And same with plasma. Like, as you start to think about plasma, where is its limitations? Well, it's in precision, right? Plasma is limited by the tolerance levels it can achieve because of its technology. Like, one example is on a hole size. It's a 1-to-1 ratio at best. And most cases, to get the best quality, you're talking like 1.5 to 1. So what that means is if you have a 1/2 inch material, the smallest hole you really are going to do is 1/2 inch. Otherwise, the taper of that hole starts to get so small that it doesn't become a true 1/2 inch hole anymore. So you have to start thinking about that. And then you start to think about the actual like edge finishes that you see. A plasma's edge finish generally is going to have, again, more taper to it, little less quality to it than what you would get from a laser. You're going to get more dross. I mean, there's more cleanup time. That's the biggest thing with that. And then, a heat effect zone on on a plasma, the flame, because of it's so much larger, like it's going to affect the area around the cut a little bit more. And so it's something that you have to think about, because that can lead to warping on thinner materials specifically. So, especially when you get into really thin materials, HVAC and whatnot, you have to have a pretty precise plasma machine to be able to achieve tolerance. Because that's what I love about plasmas. A lot of plasma companies, they show like how thick a material they can cut. Look how strong our machine is. Like, that has nothing to do with your machine. That is 100% the plasma cutter. Right? Like, you're cutting one piece of material that's an inch thick. Cool. Like, any machine can do that with the right cutter.
Right.
One time. Like, if you want to see how good a plasma machine really is, see how quickly it can cut thin material. Like we cut 20/60 gauge with ours, which a lot of machines like vaporize it. They can't do it. They just don't move fast enough. And so like people don't realize that. Like, what they're showing you is what they want to show you to make their machine look strong. So
anybody can do that for marketing, right?
Correct. Exactly.
Make it look good.
Yeah,
Doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing for your job or what you're doing.
Right. Exactly. And then, as you start to look at laser, and let's look at the flip side, understanding what a laser is. Well, lasers use a focused beam, right? It's a beam of light that is highly focused, and it vaporizes, and melts the material there. And often that's assisted by gases as well. Now, obviously, we can use compressed air on these. Oxygen, nitrogen are really common. Plasma, it's usually going to be compressed air on air plasma machines, and then you get into gas consoles where you're using oxygen, nitrogen, other assist gases, shield gases. But yeah, with a laser, like, it's really, really hyper focused, right? And what does that mean for you in a laser? Well, the precision level that you achieve is much higher. So typically you're going to have a tighter tolerance with plasma, or laser, than plasma. It's going to allow you to do like more intricate designs, things like that. And then the part finish that you can expect from a laser is typically noticeable different. Like, if you put them side by side, which we have here, and I'll show in a second here, but you're going to get a tighter, tolerance, but also a cleaner finish.
So it's almost like a finished product compared to something else you need to put a little bit more finishing touches on.
Right. Yeah. Say with a plasma, you're generally going to have to do some sort of cleanup on your part, right? You're going to send it through a slag removal device, like an easy sander or something like that. Or you're going to sit there with a grinder and grind off, the burrs and that. Where the plasma or the laser, you're going to take finished quality right off the machine. Like, very little cleanup at all. And so it's a lot less post-process work. A lot, it's going to speed up your production. You're also going to find that on the thin materials, a laser is going to just do a much better job.
For sure.
It doesn't vaporize the area as bad. So it's exceptionally accurate with that.
So then obviously with the difference in quality, you're going to have some added costs, right? It's obviously going to be a higher initial investment to get the laser.
Well, that's exactly. I was going to say, like, one of the advantages to laser is speed, right?
Yep.
So you can go faster on thin materials. Really, like, it's typically going to be faster on up to 1/2 inch material, right? But once you start hitting that 1/2 inch threshold, it starts to slow down because you have to use a lot higher wattage. And so now you lose the speed advantage over plasma. And so it starts to kind of like flip the script a little bit there. But the one thing to think about is that a cost of a laser generally is higher, right? It's to your point, the faster you want to go, the more money you're going to typically spend because you're going to put more horsepower behind it, right? And depending on, your building, like, your maintenance costs can go up a little bit with laser because, though these consumable costs go down, you have to invest in a better air compressor, right? You have to invest in a better air dryer. So the filtration system, like, there's some things you're going to have to think about there, to keep the optimal performance. Your thickness is a limitation with laser. Like, and that's why I say it's like, yes, there are big, giant fiber lasers out there that can cut anything a plasma can. You're 100% right. But they're not obtainable by the average user.
So I assume that means that when it gets thicker, the laser is going to have to go slower to get all the way through, right?
Correct.
Is that what you're saying? So then it's going to the thicker material is going to go slower and it's going to cause the edge quality to go down because it's getting too hot?
I wouldn't say the edge quality
fast?
goes down. I mean, it's still laser is a higher cut quality in most cases, but the point being is you have to increase the power source of the laser to be able to go through the thicker. And to do that, there is going to be an efficiency drop, right? Because you're talking about when you start getting into 1-inch material, that's a huge fiber laser. Like now you're talking about 480 volt 3-phase power. You're starting to talk about the ability to do that requires more building demand, right? Where to cut 1-inch material with a plasma, you can do that on standard power, right? Like standard regular 3-phase. You don't need high voltage 3-phase to do that. So, there's some advantages in plasma when it comes to that. And so that's where like the questions need to be, to be had. Then we'll talk about that, deciding between laser and plasma here in a few moments. But the other thing with laser that you have to think about is reflective materials. Obviously with the laser, you're talking about beam bounce. And it's a concern you have to think about. With plasma, it's like an open table. The head rides around on it, right? And I'm sure marketing can put some fancy thing up here that shows one of our plasmas right here-ish. But the cool thing about the plasma is that like there's not a lot of like safety curtains that have to go around it because yes, you should not stare at a plasma, right? Don't stare at it. It's bad for you.
But it's more in a contained area.
But it's a contained area. It's not going to like go somewhere else.
Right.
Where with a laser, it's reflective, right? So it can bounce off something and that beam can bounce.
And will it like bounce off?
Yeah, it bounces off.
Whole shop?
Well, yeah, I mean it can, but the reality is like if it hits, a person, it can cause it can actually cause harm. And that's why like with our fiber laser, it's an enclosed machine because you don't want that beam to bounce somewhere else and hurt somebody. So there's, and what's crazy is there's some like lower cost machines out there, import machines that don't have cages around their fiber lasers.
That's insane.
And they're basically like, good luck.
You don't need it.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
It's fine.
Trust me. We haven't lost our eyes
Nobody's
yet.
going to walk in front of it and look at it.
But it's not even that. It's like it bounces all over the shop. And it's like, don't worry, we haven't lost our eyes yet, so you're good. Like, I don't want to be the guy that, it happened one time, right?
And like, if you're out in a shop and just walking around, you're naturally going to like look towards something or
it's not even about looking.
Accidentally can just bounce off and hit you.
Right, exactly. Like, you don't even have to be looking at it for it to hit you. So, yeah, I don't know. To me, that's crazy that there's not more standards. I know like safety standards are coming up significantly with it, so that is good. But there's a lot of machines out there right now that don't have that guarding around it.
Definitely one of those things you want to focus your questions on and make sure.
Right, and that's the thing is people don't ask
questions.
Yeah,
and it's one of those you just can't take somebody's answer at their word, right?
Right,
like, man.
I don't know. So again, let's decide between laser and plasma for a second here, right? Let's spend a few minutes doing this. When does plasma make sense, right? Well, it's heavy duty cutting. That's one thing I always say. Like if you're going to get into really heavy duty cutting, structural steel, you're getting into thicker plate materials, you're going 1 inch and up all of the time. Like, yeah, you may want to consider something like a high def plasma. But then you have to think about like, also, what's my budget? Sometimes on the lower end stuff, right? Like entry level, I'm cutting signs in my shop. Trying to get my business off the ground. Well, I'm not going to go spend $100,000 on a plasma. I'm not going to spend $70,000 on a laser, right? I'm not going to do that. So I need something to get my feet wet. Like I have buddies of mine that just bought a plasma and they just started their own fab shop. And I mean, they're killing it right now. These guys are absolutely killing it. 10A Fab is their name. And they're building race car parts and all kinds of like automotive stuff. But they're not going to go out and buy a laser out the gate, right? It didn't make sense for their business model. Like they need to start cutting things and the tolerances of a plasma meet their needs right now. And so, you think about that or like, outdoor rugged environments is another thing to think about because plasmas are more forgiving to a dirty environment, right? Lasers, they have to be more of a controlled environment. Like you have to have good clean air. You have to have filtered, air to it, but you also don't want to have like contaminant around it all the time. So, it needs to be in a building. You're not going to put that on a trailer and like trailer it around the country, right?
So then it's another plus having the enclosed workspace that it's working in.
Right.
Like any shops have stuff flying around, right? There's dust everywhere.
Right.
So just having something without a curtain or any safety around it, you're going to get dust and crap in it.
Absolutely. 100%. And then when does laser make the ultimate sense? Well, it's high precision applications, right? If you're measuring tolerances in thousandths, you should be looking at a laser, right?
For sure.
If you're looking for minimal runout, minimal air, you need a hole that's true, straight up and down, almost to a T. Like, yeah, you've got to have a laser in that. When you're talking about fine detail work, I talk about, we did I don't know if you remember seeing it, but that car that we cut out.
Yep.
I wish I had it here right now so I could be like, this car. I looked around. No, it's not behind me. But
Is this where we knock on the wall for?
Yeah, this is where we did the car. But the thought process is like when you look at the grill, right? We cut those grill openings, and people didn't realize they were through cuts at the show until I put a light behind them, and it was a 7,000th kerf tolerance was the cut on the laser.
It's almost kind of unimaginable how small that is.
It's essentially 2 pieces of paper. The thickness of 2 pieces of paper. Like, it's that tight. You know, it's actually under that because I think, if I'm not mistaken, piece of paper is 4,000, so 2 would be 8. So it's actually tighter tolerances than that.
You should have taught math class with me yesterday.
I should have been there to help you. Yeah, I got lucky. 2 plus 4.
7.
8. But the other thing is like your part finish is something you have to think about too. As you get into part finish, when minimal post-process, let's just show this real quick. So I'm leaning through my mic here and trying not to hit it. Oh, got around it. Oh, thank God. So I'm going to show them to the camera right now. Okay. You can't see these very well from the distance, but I'm sure they'll post them on the screen because they're talented. But when you look at the back of a part, these parts are unfinished or untouched. And like, there's just no draws. Very little cleanup.
Both sides look the same.
They look like this. You have to physically like, okay, which side is the front and the back? Where at the Plasma, you can
It's obvious.
definitively tell which one's the front and the back because there's a post-processor when you, I'm sure the marketing guys are great.
Sound effects are lovely.
I'm sure they're loving this. But as you start to look at these two parts together, like there's a very definitive difference in those parts. And it's because the post-process finish, like there's just, when you're taking a part off of a laser, you can almost go to the next step with it.
Right.
So you think about the money you save as a shop, not having to do that post-process. And that's where it like starts to make sense. Like it's a scalable production, right? Faster, more accurate, thinner gauge materials, right? So like if you're an HVAC, it might make sense to start considering laser because you're going to get a clean edge. It's fast. I mean, plasma's not as fast on thin material as laser. And you're going to get a very, very nice finish with it. Now, plasma with the right technology, you can still get a good finish, but if you have the resources to afford the laser, like the laser is going to give you better results overall.
Yeah, that's very clear.
And the thing that I point out, I think the most, like when you evaluate your business is like, do you have to do holes like this? Like the smallest hole you're ever going to do in a plasma effectively is a 1/4 inch. And that's on material under 1/4 inch thickness, right? But with a laser, you can go way below that. I mean, you can get down to, 1/8 inch, 16th inch holes. And like you look at these two exact same parts that we cut on a plasma, a high def plasma, I mind you, high def versus fiber laser. And the hole quality, when you look at these small holes here, like it's unreal. Like think about that left hole there. Like this hole is round almost to a perfect, like it looks like it was drilled.
Yeah. And look, I mean, just for like comparison, looks like you could use a wood chisel to chisel that.
Right.
Like not to like say it's bad, but like that's the difference in the
It's limited by technology.
It's different. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you get down to it, like there are limitations that you just can't do with plasma that you can do with laser. And so like I start to remind people that like if you have a plasma already and you start to think about some of your smaller holes, your tighter tolerances, if you're struggling with any of those, it's time to start considering a laser at that point. It might be time to upgrade your plasma technology into a laser because you won't have to drill holes by hand anymore. You're not having to like post-process your parts nearly as much. Like even when you look at these thicker parts, like you look at those two edge finishes and obviously you can look at there. Yeah. I mean, it's a noticeable difference between the two of them. Like even on that material, that's 1/2 inch material. So you start to see a difference between it, even though the part geometry is, close between the two, like the edge finish is just that much better. And so
it's almost like it's a little rounded over.
Right.
And these are just perfectly, almost sharp.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing I always tell people, like when you're evaluating your business, like, are you prioritizing speed, precision, or budget? Right? Like what are you looking at? Because if budget's your key factor, then you're going to try to keep the cost down, which means you're going to give up a little bit of speed and a little bit of precision, perhaps, right?
Yep.
But if your focus is precision, well, then you're going to have to give up a little bit of budget. It is what it is. Like you can't have all three, right?
You got to prioritize what is the most important, obviously, right?
Right, correct. And if you want speed and precision, then you have to spend a lot more money on a fiber laser, right? Like, I don't know what that noise was.
I don't know. Just one flying across the floor.
No,
but
I don't know what happened. I think my table's falling apart here.
Squirrel.
But like real world examples, like for a plasma shop would be, fabricating heavy duty industrial parts, plasma, cutting speed and, thickness, accuracy will be like kind of the second thought there, right?
Yep.
Capacity wins with plasma. When you get into like laser shops where it makes sense, is people who are like producing high end high accuracy parts, right? Like producing high end signage, right? Where your accuracy is super fine there. The precision machining parts, right? You're getting into something where a bolt has to drop through a hole perfectly. Like those type of situations, accuracy is going to shine through on a laser, right? That is where it is.
Like if you're trying to produce 50 of the exact same part that's going to go
right,
build the same thing over and over and over again.
Right.
Like obviously you can see the difference in the laser's going to match every single time.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask the team to post this. I know we got some ads out there showing this off, but like plasma versus laser, like there's a noticeable difference, but they're both existing because like laser is not for everybody.
For sure.
You know, if you're in your home garage trying to cut out parts for your race car, like you can probably get by with a plasma without an issue. If you're trying to build like NASA engineered parts, yeah, you're probably going to need a laser. It just is, you know, it's just, it is what it is there with the technology. You're limited by what the kerf tolerance of a plasma can achieve. And the reality is like a flame moves, right? So as you move around the flame making a circle, the flame is not going to be perfectly round and everything. And I know people talk about like, well, what about true hole technology in plasma? And true hole technology is great, but it's certain materials, thicknesses, certain hole sizes. It's not everything all the time.
It's always limitations, right?
There's limitations. And so like with laser, they don't have that. Like the holes in all of your material, the thickness is all within the rated tolerance of your cutter. Like it's going to be similar finish.
Right. So maybe this is a dumb question, but like what's the size, like is the size of the laser, like the beam that comes out different based on
you can adjust
what you're cutting?
It's the focal size. So you can actually adjust that based on what you're trying to do. So obviously the thicker you're going, like you have to give it more power.
Sure.
But yeah, like when you're doing tight tolerances, you adjust the focal and you can actually make the beam tighter. Yeah. And the cool thing about laser too is you can do etching and engraving really well. So like when you're putting part numbers, like with plasma, you use like an engraver. You use like a vibratory plate marker that is ridiculously loud. And I just can't stand them. They're so loud and annoying. But like that's really the best way to get part numbers, right? Or a weld mark or a drill point.
Yep.
With a laser, like you just etch it in there. And it's like legible. It looks like you're writing with a pen. Like,
that makes sense. I mean, with as good as it cuts, obviously it's going to engrave the same way, right?
It's awesome. Like I just think the difference is so much there that you have to consider it. So, you know, kind of my conclusion or final thoughts on this is like CNC Laser, CNC Plasma, they both have their place in this industry. I don't think they're ever going to replace each other 100%. The right choice really depends on your ultimate goals as a shop. And like, remember, like to get to certain thicknesses of the laser, you have to have 480 volt 3-phase. Like it just is what it is there. Like you can't overcome that. And some shops just don't have it. And therefore like plasma makes sense. But like with our machine, we now have a single phase option. So you can run our lasers on single phase 220. You can keep the cost under $100,000 and you can cut, I mean, the severance cut on our current laser option is 5/8 of an inch severance with really your bread and butter being 3/8 and down. Now this is 1/2 inch. You can see it cut really well. It's just not fast, right?
Like butter.
Yeah, I mean, it looks great, but it's just you have to start to consider like what is your actual needs. If you're cutting thick stuff all day long, then yeah, maybe laser is not the right option for you. But if you're like, you know what, we don't cut that thick of stuff normally, but precision, and I don't want to clean up parts. Like we just talked to Ricky and Sons. I'm going to use Ricky and Sons. Hey guys, shout out to you guys. Ricky and Sons, they bought one of our lasers.
Yep.
And they've run our plasmas for years. And they cut a lot of cool like arts,
really
crafty
cool
stuff like that. Just cool. Like they build mailboxes. They build like mailbox posts. They build like
I saw they posted some pictures of that giant new fire pit.
Right, that fire pit. Like they do so many cool things like that. And like they do a lot of home decor and whatnot. And like for them, like he said, like how much money they spend in grinding discs and, you know, grinding machines to be getting rid of the slag and keep up with the demand, that like the post-processing is almost eliminated with all their products too in the laser. He's like, that alone will almost pay for itself.
Yeah, makes sense.
So it's like
all the behind the scenes stuff that you're spending money on that you don't think about.
Correct. And he even said, like, think about how many holes he has to drill, because they're just the holes that he has to have for certain parts are smaller than what a plasma can do. He's like, I don't have to do that anymore. The machine will just cut the holes now.
Right.
Like it saves him time, money.
And hours and hours, yeah.
So, and especially during his busy seasons when they don't have enough time in the day already to keep up.
Right.
That it just is going to hopefully boost their business, because right now, like their lead times get a little longer, he said, during the busy seasons because they just can't keep up.
He's going to be the next guy that tells us he got to take the week of Christmas off because he was so far ahead with this.
No, I know them well enough. They'll probably just keep going.
But you know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to put them in so much better spot.
It is going to put them in a better spot. And I envision them being the kind of person that they'll keep their plasma, because their plasma is going to do their thicker cutting where like they don't need the laser.
It'll have a time and a place to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's going to keep the plasma for all of his thinner, like more precise parts. And so like there is a place for them both. But like I think of all the people out there who've bought competitors' plasmas and chose not to buy ShopSabre, okay? You're still potential in the market for like a fiber laser. And like we do have a solution there. We'd love to earn your business for that because I think that's what you have to think about is like the plasma is a workhorse for thick materials. Like it is what it is there with the budget conscious operation. Laser stands alone when you're looking at ultimate quality, ultimate accuracy, ultimate precision, and minimal finishing. Like they stand alone in the technology. And so really, like if you're ready to invest in the best part quality you can get, you have to look at laser. If you're looking for the most cost affordable way to solve your needs, it may end up being plasma. But the only way to know is by talking with a sales rep and actually going through like your application to determine what is right.
Asking a million questions and getting a million answers.
Right.
And just figure it out.
You got it. You're not sure what's right for you, like call us. Like we want to help you with that. I mean, we're going to be doing a lot more demo cutting here, so we can even run a sample part for you. But we want to make this an easy decision for you. But like if you're questioning, hey, should I be getting this kind of quality? Like, yeah, you should be. So you should talk to us. And honestly, if you want more information on the fiber laser, you can go to ShopSabre.com. We got a lot of great information out there. We have videos out there. As always, like, subscribe, follow us here, drop a comment with your thoughts. What we say isn't gold. I mean, we have opinions here.
If you have any good dad jokes we haven't already told, let me know.
Yep.
Maybe I'll use it on the next episode.
It's true. But like, we just want to know, like, what's your go-to cutting solution? Why are you doing it the way you are? I mean, because again, there's people using water jet, and I've replaced several water jets with these lasers as well, because that's a whole nother cutting topic. But like, you just have to start to think about like, what is right for you. And I think laser is a great option for those who have plasma and looking for that next step.
Couldn't agree more.
So that's what I got this week for that part of the topic. Obviously, we want to motivate you as you go into the rest of your week. And, you know, I want to start off with the motivational quote again and just say, either you run your day or your day runs you. So you have to remember that, like, take control of your day, figure out what you want to do and what your goals are, and just, you know, be in charge of your day. It means putting your nose to the grindstone when you do have to do things you don't want to do, but uncomfortable moments generally breed growth.
You are correct, sir.
So again, either run your day or your day runs you. So that's my motivational quote of the week.
Don't let your day run you.
Don't let your day run you. Don't do that.
It's not worth it.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Hopefully, you know, you can share this with other shops who've considered laser over plasma. And again, if you've been watching this on YouTube, if you're not watching it on YouTube, if you're just listening, go check it out on YouTube, because you'll be able to see some of these parts. I'm sure the team's going to do something fancy to make those things show up. And maybe they aren't. Maybe I'm just doing all this and nothing's happening.
You know what's going to happen? We're going to have like plasma cutout faces in the video.
It's like, hey, here's my face.
Yeah, we're going to be looking through it.
Yeah.
Something silly like that.
Yeah. You put it upside down. There you go.
Don't want to show the rough side.
And then, obviously, yeah, just reach out to us if you got any questions on this. Yeah, that's my final thoughts of the day. I guess, you got any final thoughts? Anything I missed?
I don't think so. I mean, I learned a lot in this one, really. It's kind of a new product. I enjoy the episodes where I learn a little something about
I just like
what we
showing
do, what we don't do, yeah.
Like, I just love looking at this.
It's just, I don't know, man. It's to me, it's just crazy with the things that I've seen that machine cut, how it can just, you basically can take it off there and it's done and ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, the edge
It's
quality.
wild.
Yeah, the edge quality on these parts is just unreal. Like, you start to look at it and it's just, I just, like I said, I love show and tell.
And that's not even to say like these ones are bad.
Right. Like I said,
It's
plasma
just
ones are
crazy.
It's just crazy how much better. Yeah. It's like, and I think that's what people don't realize. Like, plasma's not bad.
No.
Just laser's better. You know, and I think you just have to think about the technology for what it is. So
There's a time and a place for both. Just depends what you need, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, hopefully this answered some of your questions for you. I know we've kind of been topic specific the last few weeks here on the episode. We've talked specifically about like CNC industry with options and now fiber laser versus plasma. We're going to get back to some more business topics here in the near future. I've got a few other things I want to talk about, and some of it's just overcoming adversity. You know, I think sometimes in your business, we find ourselves really kind of grasping at straws, right?
Yeah.
We're struggling. And sometimes you feel like you're the problem in your business, right? And I think that's what I want to talk about next week is like, when you feel like you're the problem in your business, what do you have to do? Because we've all had those moments. I mean, I felt like it many times where like, hey, am I the reason why, you know, we're not doing more? Am I holding us back? And it's easy to really blame yourself, especially when you take pride in what you do.
For sure. Yep.
It's easy to point the finger at yourself. And I think it shows a good leader when they're willing to point fingers at themselves first versus everybody else. So it's something that I would love to chat about next week. We'll get into that a little bit, but I'd love to hear from you guys. As always, leave in the comment section your thoughts ahead of next week's episode, and we will dive into them. We'll talk about them and again, check out ShopSabre.com if you want to check out the fiber laser. Give our team a call. We're here to help. That's what we love to do. Like I said, whatever we can do to be a part of your future. But thanks for tuning in to Talking Shop here with ShopSabre. I am Brandon.
And I'm Nick.
Until next time, keep talking shop.